2024 is going to be a crazy year. I already did my top 10 games of 2024 coming out in the first quarter, but there's still a bunch of games coming out beyond that and a bunch of games we don't even know about yet. And of course, we are already in that craziness with the likes of Prince of Persia that already was released, which ironically I completely forgot to add on the list. This was a game I was actually really looking forward to, and for whatever reason, because there's just too many great games, I forgot that game was even coming this year. And yeah, it's already out. A lot of people are loving it. I hear it's like one of the best Metroidvania games out there, which, you know, yeah, I'm all down for it. I love Metroidvania, specifically Metroid games, and of course Castlevania games are pretty good too as well. But I'm really excited to play that, and eventually I'll get to that. And of course, this week, the week that this video is coming up, we have Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, another amazing game that's coming out. Fortunately, I didn't get to do a video on that. I really wanted to share my hype for the game and kind of, you know, give a deep dive on what the game's about, but I didn't get around to making it, which kind of sucks. But the game I do want to talk about today is coming out in a few weeks, and that is Granblue Fantasy Relink. But before we get into that, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It does really help out a lot, as well as share the channel. That helps out even more. We are trying to hit 600 subscribers by the end of the month, so very close. We're sitting, I think, like 594 or something like that at the time of recording this video, and we're just so close to hitting that goal. The overall goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers before the end of March rather, and I know we can do it, so definitely hit that subscribe button. That does help out a lot. Share the channel, of course, helps out as well. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about some Granblue Fantasy Relink. So, Granblue Fantasy Relink has a very interesting story. The game was originally announced in 2016 for the PlayStation 4. That's right, 8 years ago the game was announced, and it was originally being created by Platinum Games and of course being published by Cygames. But somewhere around 2019 that kind of changed. Cygames announced that Platinum Games was no longer going to develop the game and they were doing everything internally. But if you played the demo already, I'm pretty sure they kept some of the stuff that Platinum Games already had started in it, because it feels very similar to a Platinum Games game, right? That makes sense. Platinum Games game, yeah. Well, it feels very similar to a Platinum Games game. Man, that could be a tongue twister there. But backtracking a little bit before that, the game was originally slated for a 2018 release date, and of course that never happened. In my head canon, I believe that maybe Platinum Games was just taking too long to finish this game. So they probably had other projects such as like Bayonetta 3. I want to say Astral Chains was probably somewhere along there, because Platinum Games did quite a few games around that era. If you remember, there was that one game. What was that one game that launched with PS5 that I can't remember? I don't know why I can't remember, but it was a live service game made by Platinum Games, and yeah, that game like died pretty quick. They were developing that. We had Astral Chains, Bayonetta 3. And I don't know, there's probably a few other games I'm missing out on, but they were pretty active around that era, so they probably left Granblue Fantasy Relink in the back burner. Cygames was like, hey, we probably need this done now. But I'm kind of happy that Cygames went all in, because I don't know, it just feels really good, and I'm not exactly sure how Platinum Games would have done this. That's not nothing negative towards Platinum Games, because Astral Chains is an amazing game, one of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch, and a game that I really do hope that we get a sequel for, because the game overall is just pretty cool. If you haven't played Astral Chains, you should definitely try it out. One of my favorite games on the Nintendo Switch for sure. But overall, I'm kind of happy with the way the game actually turns out. It actually reminds me of kind of like an old school PS2/PS3 era action RPG, which, hey, is pretty cool. So what is Granblue Fantasy? So Granblue Fantasy is actually a series. Well, now it's a series, but it's originally a mobile game. A mobile game kind of in the style of Final Fantasy Brave Exvius, and there's a couple of other games that have that play style, where you kind of have a character. Of course, you have the gacha elements where you draw for other characters, but there is a story to it. If you're not familiar with the story, the easiest way to go ahead and kind of figure out what the story is all about is watch the anime, because the anime is pretty much, I won't say a one-to-one, but it's very close enough at least to kind of get the gist of what's going on in that world. And it's actually pretty good. It's pretty decent. It's not the highest quality anime, I would say, but nonetheless the story was pretty interesting and I actually really enjoyed it. So I definitely recommend watching the anime before you play the game to kind of understand the characters and the story that revolves around there. But Granblue Fantasy Relink has really nothing to do with the story overall. The character dynamics are already established, so that's a good reason to watch the anime, but outside of that, it's its own original story. Granblue Fantasy Relink, again, is an action RPG where there are also some cool online elements, but for the most part, there is a story mode where you progress through a story, fight the bad guys, go through these levels or dungeons, whatever you want to call them, and kind of progress the story from there. Now, Granblue Fantasy Relink is one of those things, like I mentioned earlier, that really reminds me of that PS2 slash PS3 era of RPGs. Think, what was that game? Ragnarok Odyssey, I believe it was the name of the game, where basically it's an action RPG. You have a hub world. That hub world is where you actually take your story quests or your side quests, which you can actually do in multiplayer mode, and you progress the story that way. I guess the closest to it, if you want to think in modern terms, is like Monster Hunter, where you have that hub and that's where you actually get your quests, upgrade your equipment, and so forth. Very similar system in Granblue Fantasy Relink, which is not a bad thing. I don't mind that stuff. I mean, Dot Hack had something very similar where you have a hub world, you go ahead and upgrade your equipment, get quests, all that other stuff, and then from there you can actually go through the dungeons, and then that's where all the fighting happens. So this is a very similar dynamic there. Neat thing about this is you have party members you can switch in and out, and of course, like I mentioned earlier, there is a multiplayer mode. The multiplayer mode is pretty cool. There are some quests you can go ahead and do in multiplayer, and as far as the demo goes, the quests that you can do vary. So you have one that's more like a horde of monsters where you have different rounds, and at the end there is a boss monster. There's two other ones where basically they were just boss monsters, but they were very, very difficult or very high level. One of them was a little bit more of a like medium level, so a little bit easier to kind of beat, but then the one the other one that was there, the third one, was a lot more difficult to go ahead and combat. And actually it was really fun. It does have a Monster Hunter feel to it, especially when you're doing the like solo boss rush mode or boss monster mode, but the combat is very, very fun. And that's the main thing that I was hoping in this game, is because when it comes to action RPGs, it's one of two things: it's either really fun or really boring. Usually when it's boring is because the combat is too slow, and if it's fun, typically it's a little bit quicker, but there's also some strategy dynamics into this, and this does have that. There's combo abilities you can do. You do have abilities with cooldowns that you can utilize. There's little chain attacks that you can do. So there's a lot of great things actually that you can do in this game that I'm super excited for. As far as graphics go, graphically speaking, the game is beautiful. The cell shading graphics they utilize in this game is amazing. I mean, honestly, just looking at the graphics and staring from afar, just staring at everything, looks really, really good. I always like those cell shaded slash like anime-ish graphics, and over time it's just gotten better and better. Honestly, I think Dragon Ball FighterZ for setting the bar high, because when Dragon Ball FighterZ first came out and we saw those graphics, I think that kind of told everybody else that was doing cell shaded, like, yeah, you need to do something, because this looks exactly like the anime and all your other cell shaded stuff does not. So anyways, when it comes to this, I think it's a good, I'd say, mix, right? It looks very anime-ish, it's very bright and vibrant. If you have an HDR TV, you probably will get those colors popping. If you play it on the Steam Deck OLED, which is one thing that I don't know if it's going to be Steam verified, so hopefully there is no issues running the game on Steam. But anyways, if you're playing on the Steam Deck OLED, you'll probably get those HDR colors vibing as well. I mean, honestly, anything with a cell shaded graphics art style, usually the colors always pop on an HDR display and on an OLED display. When it comes to performance, at least in the demo, I was getting 60 FPS, which is not a bad thing. I mean, I guess if you care about performance that much, you can get 60 FPS. I know there was more of a quality mode there. I didn't touch that because I always just want the higher frame rates. Where it comes to graphics, I don't mind 30 FPS for the most part, but when it comes to more action-y games, I do prefer the 60 FPS cap versus 30 FPS. And that's pretty much a quick overview of Granblue Fantasy Relink, kind of the development story and what the game is really about. I honestly recommend, if you have a PS5, definitely try out the demo. Kind of sucks that there was no demo for the PC version, because I really wanted to test it out, mainly to see if it will run on my Steam Deck, because games for the most part, they can be hit and miss, like especially when it comes to RPGs. Sometimes they use like FMV videos for the cutscenes, and some games that have used that, the cutscenes don't work. Sometimes it just like locks and you can't do anything beyond a certain point. So I was kind of hoping that there was a demo on PC, but it looks like it is only PlayStation exclusive for now. The other neat thing about the demo too is once you do all the little side quests, the missions there, you do get some rewards that will import into the full game rather, which is kind of neat. So then if you are thinking of going ahead and buy it on PS5, hey, you get some extra stuff out of it. Me personally, I'm definitely gonna get it on PC. Probably gonna stream it honestly, so definitely keep an eye out on our Twitch and YouTube channel, because I will probably be streaming it every Friday when the game comes out. More likely on PC for sure, because I want to, do the multiplayer stuff on my Steam Deck if it works. If not, eventually I'm gonna get an ROG Ally or something like that, right? But yeah, thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, as I mentioned earlier. Don't forget to also share the channel. It does help out. Once again, we're trying to hit 600 subscribers. We're so close to doing that. Very, very close, and I know we can do that. Overall goal is by the end of March to hit 1,000 subscribers, which I think is doable. And also don't forget to follow the Twitch, because I do stream on Twitch as well, and that does help out as well. Thanks for watching. My name is James, and I'll catch you guys next time.